Hey, welcome. Today is day 13 of my 365-day challenge. Thanks for being here. Today I thought I would talk about the most pressing issue that men face globally. There are a lot of problems that men have. You'll hear mental health struggles, but that's probably the biggest one. Identity and role confusions and relationship and dating difficulties, etc. But underlying everything, almost all of men's problems, if it's not the cause, it's related. It's economic challenges. And oddly enough, it makes sense, right? But when you look things up online, they always twist it a little bit. It's educational and economic challenges. And then the prescriptions for this problem, the biggest problem that men have, right? Money, is that you need to upskill. You need to become more empathetic or emotionally intelligent in today's world. Those are helpful, but they're still not going to solve your problem. Finding a job seems impossible today, right? Every job ad has 500 to 1,000 applicants. And you could be the most educated, most experienced guy out there. You still won't get that job. It seems that way. But you think about the probability. If you got 500, what is that? 1/4% are your odds, your chances of getting that job. And today, seems like most people are educated. Certainly women are much more educated than men. They're graduating from college at much higher rates than men are. But education is a predictor of future earning potential. But that's not that's not what's causing this problem. I think that you have a right to be angry at the world, first of all. I'm not promoting anger or blame here. What I'm saying is you must have this sense that the whole world is colluding, unknowingly, ignorantly, to create the problems that we have today. And they are. This is the outcome of humanity's stupidity. I often go back and reference these, employment statistics, the jobs reports and things like that. It's always these low numbers. I think who's benefiting from these low numbers? Certainly elected officials, government officials, and all the corporations that are on stock exchanges, right? Great low numbers for unemployment. But at the same time, I'll see so many guys that are unemployed. Actually, beyond that, they're not even looking for jobs anymore. And good thing for the Bureau of Labor Statistics and whoever depends on these numbers, they don't even count people that are not actively looking for work. It's great. And unfortunately, because men are having such severe financial issues and other issues stacked on top of that, because of that, suicide rate is all-time high. It's affecting younger men. So that must be good to keep the unemployment rate down, right? For losing unemployed guys every year. It's ridiculous. I don't mean to be making fun or making light of such an unfortunate thing. It's sad, it's shocking. But we sometimes, and I'll talk about this later, is that sometimes humor is a good way to process things that otherwise would incense us. So I'm talking to somebody out there. I don't know you, but you're probably unemployed, underemployed. You're not making the money you want or the money you need to live a decent life, to have a girlfriend, to get married, build a family, buy a home. You can forget about that. You already understand that, right? It's ridiculous. So all the while we see these guys online making millions and millions of dollars, driving Lamborghinis and sharing liberally their pictures on social media. And that's what you have to compare yourself to and what your life has amounted to. I want to say something about jobs, because so many of us get stuck in this never-ending effort to find a job, and it makes us makes us feel better to do this repetitive thing day after day and just applying. We know it's not going to help. And we also have a feeling that if we were to upskill or gain these soft skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, put them on the resume, that's going to make a difference. I mean, that should make for the greatest sitcom ever. That's ridiculous. If you were to put an MBA on your resume, I don't think it would make much difference. So taking courses on empathy, I don't even know what to say about that. So you understand this. That's why you and millions of other guys with lots of energy and want to make a difference, want to improve their life, certainly not lazy, have bowed out from institutions like education and these sorts of things, skills, upskilling and whatnot. Because there's no guarantee. It's not a guarantee. The prospect of you spending all this time and money on an education, on a degree, on a certification, on courses and everything. To say it's not a guarantee is a joke. It's silly. It's not even in the ballpark. We'll do almost nothing. You understand that? Sorry, I'm like the bearer of bad news today. There is light. There is light at the end of this tunnel. I promise you. It gets much better. So, so I can relate. I picked this topic today because I can relate to it. I've been there. I've experienced this pain and the suffering. So what I wanted to talk to you about today are things that are within your control, not things that are outside of your control, right? Changing policy, improving the economy, getting elected officials to do things differently. For example, protectionist policies, or helping men upskill and find jobs. There's a lot of things that can be done, but we don't control that. And I don't think they have time for us because they're probably playing golf on Friday morning and they've got a bourbon and steak dinner on Friday night. Okay, let's move on. So there are three things, I'm pretty sure, that I want to discuss with you that I know are going to help you because they're completely within your control. And you can change your life gradually, but you can start today. And I'm sharing these things with you because they've helped me. So the first thing I want to talk about is your mind. And I know from experience, when I was looking for work, when I didn't have money, when I fell on tough times, that my mind was fried. I was asking it to do things that it just didn't have the right answers for. And I did it day after day. So our mind cannot solve all of our problems, but that's a reality of how our brains work. So it's a powerful organ, but it operates based on the information that's put into it. It's like the AI, it's like ChatGPT or anything like that. It generates output from its training data. Our brain is the same. So if the inputs are flawed or incomplete or negative, then the mind's outputs, your thoughts, your feelings, your decisions, they're going to reflect those distortions. And not to mention that our mental model of the world is shaped by our early experiences, by social conditioning, and by repeated exposure to beliefs and narratives. And when our inputs, our mental inputs, are dominated by criticism, by fear, by scarcity, the mind develops biases and patterns that can negatively affect its functioning, right? So I know you know what I'm talking about. This negative thinking, this self-doubt, criticism, and not just talking about, the inner critic. People talk a lot about that, but it's so much more than that. And beneath all of that, we have our hopes, your dreams, your instincts, and your authentic self. That's still intact beneath all that noise, the mental noise. So the mind is operating on this outdated, unhelpful information, and your real, authentic self with all your hopes and dreams just beneath that. So how can we work with our minds to change our circumstances? I remember a long time ago when I was a lot younger, my father would always tell me that it's all in your mind whenever I had a problem. And I would get angry. But yeah, he was right. It really is. Even when things seem like they're out of our control, it's because we're just blaming or pointing at what is probably a reasonable cause for our suffering, but it's in our mind means that we can do something about it. We can process what's happening differently in a more positive way, right? So here's what we can do to help our mind operate more effectively. So we have to intentionally change our inputs in our environment. And that starts by surrounding yourself with supportive people, positive influences, and enriching experiences, right? That cannot be overstated. Supportive people and positive influences. If you have people around you that are negative, unhappy, just always criticizing others and themselves, just in a funk, I mean, you know those individuals. They're going to bring you down. They're going to affect you negatively. And there are people out there that really want the best for us. They're very few and far in between. But if you have somebody like that, keep them close. Those are very, very important people to have when you're going through tough times. And next, it would be controlling inputs, limiting your exposure to toxic social media and negative social interactions, and also unproductive internal dialogue. Negative dialogue, this talking to yourself in a way that makes you feel bad, depressed, sad, hopeless, or closes doors, So the next thing is replacing self-doubt with affirmations, with evidence-based affirmations. I've briefly touched on that before in an earlier video, and I think I'm going to make a full video in the future just on affirmations. I think that they're one of the greatest tools at our disposal. It's just remarkable how effective and helpful affirmations can be if you phrase them correctly And if you use them often, they can change your life. And they help you operate automatically in your best interest. So those are great. And physical movement and working out. I would probably leave that to so many other channels on YouTube today about working out. But if you're a man out there and you're not working out, you're not taking care of yourself, I don't know what to tell you. I would start there. And obviously you got to work, your mind's got to help you do that, but you have to take care of your physical body. I think it's even mentioned in the Bible. I was talking about that. I was reading some passages yesterday about being prepared, preparation. Taking care of your body is one of those ways to prepare. So physical fitness is so crucial for a number of reasons. I was just reading about something called neurogenesis. It's amazing. And your cognitive function will improve and emotional regulation will improve. Just working out. I've been working out almost daily for 5 months now, 1.5 to 2 hours a day, and it's changed my life in ways I never imagined, believe me. And sometimes I had to push myself, but after I got going, it was something I wasn't willing to give up anymore. It's one of the greatest things in life. So if you're bent out of shape, you have no excuse. And if you're bent out of shape and you want something better for yourself, if you have anything that you want, any wish, hopes, dreams, or whatever we're talking about today, the reason why you're even watching this video, and you're not working out at a gym or cardio or whatever it is, I don't understand that. So please get to that. I can make a future video about working out as well, physical fitness, if that's something you're interested in, but there's so many resources on YouTube and online. All right, so we've covered the mind briefly. But I want to move on real quick to something that goes hand in hand with that. It operates in your mind. It's asking better questions. This activity, asking better questions. And I remember Professor Sam Vaknin, Vaknin, even mentioned that in one of his videos about 3 things you can do to help yourself improve your life. 3 things. The second one was that answers are everywhere, all around you. And you're searching for answers right now and you're not finding them. But the answers are everywhere around you. And the third thing he says in the top 3 lessons for life is ask the right questions. So it's remarkable that 2 and 3 out of his top 3 are answers are everywhere, and then ask the right questions. I mean, he didn't invent this, but for him to pull 3 things together in such a way, he did a fantastic job of explaining it as well. So the quality of your internal life and your external outcomes is deeply shaped by the questions you ask yourself. Straight out of my notes, guys. Our thoughts, especially automatic ones, shape our emotional responses and behaviors. So ask better questions. Like, for example, what small things can I do right now to get me going in the right direction? It's a better question. What's one thing I can do to gain momentum towards this big goal? There's a million questions you can ask yourself. Just make sure they're ones that are empowering, that get you to think and act differently in better ways, and that have a better chance of helping you achieve a positive outcome. Okay? There's books on asking questions, better questions. So do that and make a note of it and revisit this concept on a daily basis, because I know you're probably not asking yourself the right questions. I'm almost sure you're not. And in the past, I wasn't either. I just got stuck in thinking in the same ways I did every single day. And in the lucky moments and times where I had a novel question to ask myself, it was like an epiphany. It changed the track of everything. So ask better questions. And also reframing questions. So we can become more optimistic by changing something that's, they call an explanatory style, how you interpret the causes of events in your life. And there was a book called Learned Optimism by Seligman. And he researched learned helplessness, found that people who repeatedly experience negative outcomes beyond their control, they can become passive and hopeless. So we want to reframe questions, and he gives 3 key dimensions for that. So the dimensions are permanence, pervasiveness, and personalization. So there's like if you're asking a bad question, it's like, or making a statement, things are always going to be this way, right? For me, like you say, oh, things are always going to be this way. They're never going to change. So that's a permanence dimension. And he says you can ask it in an optimistic style, which is, this is temporary. So, and then pervasiveness, this affects everything in my life. That would be the statement. And a more optimistic way is, this is just one area. And then the final dimension is personalization, where you will say, it's all my fault. When the more optimistic way would be, there are other factors at play. So that's an interesting way of reframing questions. So it's not only about asking the right questions, but reframing questions. And here I gave you examples that were statements, but you understand how it works. I looked into the psychological implications of asking better questions. It was interesting to see what it does for us psychologically. And it activates the prefrontal cortex rather than the limbic system. So the prefrontal cortex controls our executive function, and the limbic system, it's deals with emotional reactivity, right? So that's one. And then asking better questions promotes self-directed neuroplasticity, meaning that we can rewire thought patterns through deliberate questioning. Very interesting. 2 more. Enhances problem solving and creative reasoning, and reduces cognitive dissonance. So those are the benefits of asking better questions, okay? And the next, I want to move on from this and go to the next area the thing I wanted to share with you is, I call it feeling your way. Feeling your way. And so I looked into some authors or people that were talking about this online. I found cognitive reasoning is not the only valid path to problem solving, but the body and emotions contain vital information about what truly matters to us, about where we're stuck and what might set us free. So there's this book called The Body Keeps the Score by Kolk, and it's a great book. And the author discusses that emotional pain and trauma and longing, they're not just mental states, they're stored physiologically in the nervous system. And ignoring them or suppressing them or trying to think your way out of it, it bypasses a fundamental truth. So the author says, you must feel in order to heal. So I'm using this example to highlight or underline feeling your way through it. This is not a video about healing, but there's the relationship is there, or you can make the relation. He goes on to say, you can be fully in charge of your life only if you can acknowledge the reality of your body in all its visceral dimensions. So it's not about indulging in emotion for its sake, but tuning in to embodied experience, sensation, intuition, and emotional resonance as legitimate ways of knowing. He calls it introception, and it strengthens self-awareness and decision-making. So like some example questions you can ask yourself about feeling your way. And the reason why I included, I thought about, you got your mind and then feeling your way through it, because the way you're using your mind today is not giving you the answers you need. And a lot of the time we go back and forth deliberating with ourselves in our mind, with the inner dialogue. And this is just logic and reasoning, and it's dry, but we really need to consult our body or emotion. How do we feel about things? Because you know that if there are certain answers your brain's going to give you about what you can do, but you don't want to. Your body stops you. You don't feel like doing it. So we have to incorporate our body, our emotions and feelings in this decision, in our decision-making process. So we have to be very much in tune with that. So there's some sample questions. This was from another author, Craig, 2002. And actually, this is the last passage I read was from that author. Questions: what tightens in your chest when you consider your current job? What softens when you imagine a new direction? What grief do you carry from expectations not met? So these are not abstractions, but they're like somatic cues, signals from your nervous system about what aligns with you and what doesn't. And in the past, for me, when I started to be more in touch with how I felt about things and why, it helped me make sense of why I didn't want to continue down the path of certain jobs or careers, and why I was interested in others but not moving forward with them. And so I think more of the answers, the correct answers for me, were found in the feeling area, as opposed to what I did day in and day out. It was just consult my mind and demand an answer from it, and it didn't have one. So there was another author, Damasio, it's a neuroscientist, and he said that emotion is essential to rational decision-making. In cases where patients had damaged emotional processing areas of the brain, they were unable to make decisions even with intact logic. So that's amazing to know that, because we think all our decisions are just logical. We just make them with our mind, but it has a lot more to do with emotional processing. Feelings provide context, meaning, and urgency. They are not the enemy of reason. They are the source of direction. So that was Damasio. Sometimes the next step isn't clear for you, and that's okay. And I would just say allow space for your effort and for your distraction or rest. I remember I did a short recently about how young men are spending most of their time playing video games. There is a place for everything within moderation. Distraction is fine. It's necessary, but within moderation. There's another, I had a quote here from someone named Rohr, R-O-H-R, and he said, "We don't think ourselves into new ways of living. We live ourselves into new ways of thinking." It's amazing. That was Richard Rohr. I'll repeat it again. I just thought it was so cool. We don't think ourselves into new ways of living. We live ourselves into new ways of thinking. So it's like experience should precede the thought, or Experience gives us new ways of thinking. But just thinking alone isn't going to give us new ways of living. So that really underlines what I've been saying here in this with this subject. And I want to add that when you can face your pain and suffering directly and honestly enough, without breaking down or distracting yourself forever or numbing your pain, you can begin to do what you never thought possible or feasible or convenient. So that's an important point to make. We want to be really firmly facing or in touch or rubbing up against reality. We don't want to be dulling the pain or distracting ourselves constantly. And finally, I wanted to add, don't take life too seriously. That has been a very useful thing for me in the past, to learn to and be able to laugh at myself or my predicament. So, and there's a lot of treatment about this online, how humor is a psychological buffer. It's good to laugh at yourself. Before I found this, I thought, hey, maybe there's something wrong with that, but it's actually a very healthy thing. It's a way to distance yourself from pain and setbacks without denying their reality. Someone called this cognitive reappraisal. It could be considered that. It lets you reinterpret difficult events, shifting them from threats to challenges. That was Gross and John, 2003. People who can laugh at themselves and their misfortunes tend to recover faster from setbacks and maintain motivation. That was Fredrickson. So, taking life less seriously doesn't mean that you're being careless or complacent. It means that you're learning to hold your experiences lightly, enough to keep moving forward despite uncertainty or loss. So these three things that we've discussed today, working on your mind, asking better questions, and asking better questions is part of that, and then feeling your way through it, and don't take life too seriously. And I want to repeat or reiterate what Vaknin said as part of the three top, I think, life lessons or something. The first one, I didn't tell you what number one was. He said, never choose the path, let the path choose you. I thought that was fantastic. Being flexible and open-minded, and just not having a rigid set target or focus, but just allow the path to choose you. Life's events, circumstances, the things that are happening around you that are out of your control are nudging you in a certain direction. And just let that happen. Let that unfold. And things might not make sense when you're going through them. But later on, you've probably seen or felt this. When you look back, you can kind of plot the relationship between these life's events and how they didn't make sense in the long run. So never choose the path, let the path choose you is the first thing. And the second one is answers are everywhere. We talked about that. And the third one is asking the right questions, because the answers are everywhere. You just have to ask the right questions. So those have been just an enormous help for me in my life, and they've helped to sustain me. So I hope that they help you. And I'm going to continue to make more videos that I hope will be helpful to you. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them after this video. And I hope that you will subscribe and like this video and share it with a friend if you think it can be helpful to them. Thank you.